A woman in a perfectly tailored charcoal business suit walked confidently into Judge Judy's courtroom, carrying a leather portfolio embossed in gold with the name Dr. Rebecca Thornton, PSID. Everything about her projected professional credibility. Her designer glasses, the neatly styled hair pulled into an elegant bun, and her measured steps all suggested years of clinical experience. For 3 years, Dr. Rebecca Thornton had been counseling vulnerable patients dealing with trauma, depression, and anxiety in her spotless suburban Connecticut office. She had collected more than $400,000 in therapy fees and insurance payments. Over 200 struggling individuals had trusted her with their deepest fears and darkest moments. But what no one in the crowded courtroom knew was that Rebecca Thornton was not a doctor at all. She had never gone to medical school. She had never earned a psychology degree from any university. She had not completed a single hour of supervised clinical training. Every therapy session she had ever held was illegal. Every credential on her office wall had been purchased from a diploma mill. And when Judge Judy asked one simple question about her fabricated education, the carefully constructed image that had fooled insurance companies, hospital administrators, and hundreds of vulnerable patients would crumble in just 90 seconds. Jennifer Martinez sat trembling in the plaintiff's chair, gripping a thick folder filled with therapy bills and medical documents, representing 8 months of her life and $22,000 of her family savings. Jennifer had seen Dr. Thornton twice a week after a severe car accident left her unable to sleep, unable to drive, and barely able to leave her home without crippling panic attacks. She had trusted Rebecca completely, believing she was receiving legitimate psychological treatment from a licensed expert who could help her recover from the trauma that had shattered her normal life. Her insurance company had paid out over $22,000 to Rebecca's practice. But Jennifer's condition only worsened under Rebecca's care. The therapy techniques were strange and often contradictory. Sometimes the advice caused more panic attacks instead of preventing them. When Rebecca instructed her to begin driving on highways immediately as exposure therapy, Jennifer experienced a complete breakdown. Something felt wrong. But Rebecca always had explanations that sounded professional. When Jennifer finally consulted a real psychiatrist for a second opinion, the truth began to surface. None of Rebecca's methods followed recognized therapeutic protocols. And when the psychiatrist checked Rebecca's credentials in the state medical licensing database, there was nothing to be found. Rebecca Thornton had spent 3 years building an entirely fake therapy practice, being meticulous about every detail. Her office perfectly resembled that of a legitimate therapist, complete with a comfortable couch, a strategically placed box of tissues, calming artwork, and bookshelves filled with used psychology textbooks she had purchased online. She had studied those books thoroughly, memorizing therapeutic terminology and diagnostic criteria until she could speak the language of psychology convincingly enough to fool even trained professionals in the mental health field. Her business cards were printed by the same company real doctors used. Her billing system operated through legitimate medical coding processes. She even attended professional networking events, confidently introducing herself as a colleague to licensed therapists who never imagined they were speaking to a complete fraud. The license number she used to bill insurance companies had been stolen from Dr. Margaret Chen, a real psychologist in California who had retired 5 years earlier. What made Rebecca's deception especially dangerous was that she targeted the most vulnerable patients, people dealing with severe trauma, debilitating anxiety, deep depression, and overwhelming grief. Individuals who urgently needed genuine professional help instead received advice from someone with no qualifications who was essentially experimenting on their mental health. Rebecca had convinced herself that reading psychology books and taking a few online courses made her capable of offering legitimate treatment. She had grown so sure of her fabricated identity that she truly believed she could deceive anyone, even America's toughest television judge. She walked into that courtroom expecting yet another easy win, assuming her polished credentials and confident demeanor would once again persuade everyone she was legitimate. But Rebecca had made a fatal mistake. She had become careless with the details of her invented background, unaware that Judge Judy Shinlin had spent the previous night dismantling every claim in Rebecca's supposed biography. Judge Judy had contacted universities, checked licensing databases, and assembled an airtight case proving that Rebecca Thornton was a complete imposter. All that remained was to get Rebecca to repeat her lies under oath and then pose the one question she could never answer correctly. The trap was perfectly set. Before revealing the exact moment, Judge Judy exposes the fake therapist with a single question. Smash that like button if you believe people who exploit vulnerable patients should face real consequences. And hit subscribe, because what you're about to see is the most satisfying takedown of medical fraud ever caught on camera. The question that destroys Rebecca's entire fake career is coming up. The Judge Judy courtroom buzzed with its usual electric energy. The audience had settled in. Cameras were rolling, and production assistants made their final checks. Judge Judy reviewed her notes one last time, a slight smile forming at the corners of her mouth, one that regular viewers recognized as the warning sign that someone was about to be thoroughly dismantled. Rebecca Thornton sat at the defendant's table with relaxed, confident posture. She had faced skeptical questioning before from insurance verification departments and wary patients. She had always passed. Her story was consistent, her documents appeared legitimate, and her professional language was convincing enough to make anyone believe she was genuine. Judge Judy looked up from the bench with her characteristic directness. "Miss Thornton, you are being sued by Jennifer Martinez for $72,000. She claims you defrauded her by providing therapy without proper credentials and worsened her condition with dangerous treatment methods. How do you respond?" Rebecca's reply was smooth and polished, delivered with the practiced authority of someone who had deceived hundreds. "Your Honor, these accusations are entirely baseless and frankly insulting to my professional reputation. I am a licensed clinical psychologist with extensive training and 3 years of successful practice. Ms. Martinez was a challenging patient who refused to fully engage in evidence-based therapeutic protocols. She is now attempting to blame me for her own lack of commitment to the difficult work necessary for true psychological healing. The language was flawless, evidence-based protocols. Psychological healing. Patient resistance saw the right professional buzzwords. Tell me about your educational background, Miss Thornton." Judge Judy's tone was calm, giving no hint that she already knew every word. About to follow was a lie. Rebecca smiled with practiced ease. "I completed my undergraduate degree in psychology at Yale University, graduating magna cum laude in 2012. I then earned my doctoral degree at Stanford University, specializing in trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy. I completed my clinical internship at McLean Hospital near Boston, which is affiliated with Harvard Medical School and is one of the premier psychiatric institutions in the country. After finishing my doctorate and obtaining my clinical license, I opened my private practice in Connecticut, where I have been successfully treating patients for 3 years. It sounded impeccable. Precise dates, elite institutions, appropriate specialization. Everything appeared completely convincing. The audience nodded along, clearly impressed. Judge Judy made her notes slowly, her expression revealing nothing of the fact that she had already spent hours confirming that every detail Rebecca had just claimed was fabricated. "And this license allows you to bill insurance companies?" Judge Judy asked. "Yes, Your Honor. Absolutely. I'm fully licensed and credentialed with all major insurance providers. I follow all proper protocols for documentation and treatment planning. Rebecca replied smoothly. Judge Judy turned to Jennifer Martinez. Ms. Martinez, tell me what happened during your treatment. Jennifer's voice shook with emotion. Your Honor, I was in a terrible car accident that left me with severe PTSD. I couldn't sleep, couldn't drive, could barely function. Dr. Thornton seemed so professional. I trusted her completely. But nothing she did helped me. The techniques she used for my panic attacks made them worse. She told me to force myself to drive on highways right away. When I tried, I had a complete breakdown. I told her I was having thoughts of hurting myself, and she just told me to journal about it instead of getting proper crisis help. Rebecca kept her composed, professional demeanor, gently shaking her head as if dealing with a difficult or uncooperative patient. Ms. Thornton, Judge Judy said, Ms. Martinez claims your techniques were harmful. How do you respond? Rebecca's tone was clinical, cool, and dismissive. Your Honor, exposure therapy is a scientifically validated treatment for PTSD. What Ms. Martinez experienced is not unusual. Patients often resist confronting their fears because avoidance feels safer. Her negative reaction doesn't mean the treatment was inappropriate. It means she wasn't ready to do the challenging work required for recovery. As mental health professionals, we sometimes have to push patients beyond their comfort zones. It sounded credible. Exposure therapy was real. And Rebecca sprinkled in enough genuine psychological terminology to make her deception believable. She leaned back slightly, adopting the posture of an experienced clinician. Judge Judy asked further questions about Rebecca's practice, her treatment strategies, and her patient outcomes. Rebecca responded confidently to each one, using polished, therapeutic language and describing her methods with apparent authority. She had no idea she was stepping straight into a trap that would dismantle her entire fabricated identity. Judge Judy leaned forward just a fraction. Her gaze locked onto Rebecca with sharp precision. The courtroom fell into complete silence. That unmistakable tension settling when everyone senses something pivotal is about to unfold. You've told this court that you earned your doctorate in psychology from Stanford University, correct? Yes, Your Honor, Rebecca answered, still unwaveringly confident. And this doctorate qualifies you to provide clinical psychological services and bill insurance companies as a licensed provider, Judge Judy asked. Yes, Your Honor, that's correct. Rebecca replied. She had answered these verification questions countless times. Insurance companies, doubtful patients, administrative staff. This felt like nothing new. Judge Judy paused, letting the silence stretch just long enough to tighten the air in the room. Then she asked a question that would end everything. Miss Thornton, in what year did Stanford University award you your PsyD degree? It sounded like a simple request for clarification and easy question. But it was a perfectly designed trap. A real graduate could recall their graduation year instantly, as effortlessly as remembering their own birthday. But for someone pretending to hold a degree, that question was a minefield. Rebecca had studied Stanford's psychology program enough to sound credible, but she hadn't memorized the specifics of her invented timeline. For the first time during the entire hearing, she hesitated. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her eyes shifted to the side, a universal sign of someone scrambling to invent an answer. The pause lasted only 2 seconds, but in the heavy courtroom silence, it felt far longer. Everyone noticed the confident facade that had carried Rebecca through the proceedings evaporated. "I'm sorry, Your Honor," she said, trying to regain her composure, though her voice lacked its earlier authority. "Could you repeat the question?" Judge Judy's expression remained unchanged. "In what year did Stanford award you your doctorate? This should be very simple for you to answer, Miss Thornton." Rebecca's mind raced. She needed a plausible year. Too recent, and her claimed 3 years of practice wouldn't fit. Too distant and other details would collapse. She was cornered. It was in 2018, she finally said, her voice unsure. Judge Judy made a note. 2018, and you're certain about that? Yes, Your Honor, Rebecca replied, attempting to sound confident, but falling short. So, you completed your doctorate in 2018, then finished your internship, obtained your license, and established your practice by 2021. Rebecca nodded, realizing the contradiction, but unable to fix it. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Judy picked up a document from the bench. That's very interesting, Miss Thornton. Because Stanford University has no record of awarding any doctorate in psychology to anyone named Rebecca Thornton in 2018 or 2017, or 2019, or any year. The courtroom erupted in gasps. The color drained from Rebecca's face. Her professional composure and confident demeanor vanished instantly, replaced by the wide-eyed expression of someone watching their entire world collapse. That's not possible, Rebecca stammered, her hands beginning to shake. There must be some administrative error. Judge Judy's voice sliced through the room like a scalpel. There's no error, Miss Thornton, because you never attended Stanford. You never attended any accredited psychology program. You do not have a doctorate. You do not have any degree in psychology whatsoever. Rebecca's fingers clutched the edge of the table. And that license number you've been using to bill insurance companies. Judge Judy continued. It belongs to Dr. Margaret Chen, a licensed psychologist in California who retired 5 years ago. You stole her credentials and used them to commit insurance fraud for 3 years. The courtroom was in chaos. Jennifer Martinez sat with tears streaming down her face, tears of relief mixed with shock. Rebecca looked as if she might be sick. Judge Judy was not done. Let's go through your entire fake biography. You claim to have graduated from Yale. Yale has no record of you. Your internship at McLean Hospital never happened. Tays spoke with their director. They have never heard of you. Each statement landed like another hammer blow. Rebecca was hunched over now, her once crisp suit wrinkled, her perfectly styled hair beginning to fall apart. For 3 years, Judge Judy said, her voice rising with anger, you have been counseling vulnerable patients suffering from trauma, depression, and anxiety. You have given advice that could have been fatal. You collected more than $400,000, all while having 0 qualifications. You instructed Jennifer to use exposure therapy that could have killed someone with untreated PTSD. And you walked into this courtroom prepared to lie under oath. Rebecca was crying, now mascara streaking, hands shaking uncontrollably. The fake therapist who had tricked hundreds had been fully exposed by a single question. She couldn't answer. What you're witnessing is justice being delivered to someone who spent 3 years exploiting people at their most vulnerable. If you believe Rebecca deserves what's coming, smash that like button and comment justice served below. Subscribe so you never miss moments when frauds finally face real accountability. Share this video with anyone who has ever wondered whether their therapist is legitimate. Judge Judy's final judgment was swift and devastating. Ms. Thornton, in all my years on the bench, I have never encountered fraud this calculated, this dangerous, or this morally bankrupt. You targeted people suffering from severe trauma, people who desperately needed real help, and you experimented on them while collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars. I am ruling in favor of Jennifer Martinez. You will pay her $22,000 for the fraudulent fees. You will pay her $50,000 in emotional damages for worsening her condition and endangering her life. And you will pay her $25,000 in punitive damages because your conduct was so egregious. The total came to $97,000 more than Jennifer had even requested. I am also notifying the Connecticut Attorney General's office with full documentation of your fraud. I am sending them proof of your stolen license number, your fake credentials. and your admission under oath that you practiced psychology without any qualifications. You are facing multiple felony charges: insurance fraud, identity theft, practicing medicine without a license. My estimate is 15 to 20 years in federal prison if prosecutors pursue the maximum penalties. The number hung heavily in the air. Rebecca's quiet crying turned into loud sobs, and when this episode airs, I am sending copies to every insurance company you defrauded. They will sue you for every penny of the $400,000 you stole. The gavel struck. We're adjourned. The episode aired 3 weeks later and instantly became the most viral Judge Judy moment of the season. Within 24 hours, clips surpassed 30 million views. The moment Rebecca paused before answering became a meme. The shot of her face when Judge Judy revealed Stanford had no record of her went viral with more than 50 million views. Fake therapist exposed trended worldwide for 2 days. Judge Judy destroys fraud hit #1 trending. Psychology Today published an article on unlicensed practitioners using Rebecca's case. News outlets covered the story extensively. Mental health advocates praised Judge Judy for exposing fraud that endangered vulnerable patients. Judge Judy sent documentation to the Connecticut Attorney General within 24 hours. The AG's office launched an immediate criminal investigation. When the scope of insurance fraud emerged, the FBI joined. Rebecca's office was raided. Investigators seized fake diplomas, computer records, and patient files. Once the episode went viral, Rebecca's other patients began coming forward. Nearly 200 individuals shared their experiences. Many reported that her treatment had made their conditions worse. One woman said Rebecca told her to stop taking prescribed antidepressants, causing her depression to worsen severely. Another described exposure therapy that triggered a breakdown requiring hospitalization. 6 weeks later, federal prosecutors filed charges 47 counts, including wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, and practicing psychology without a license. Rebecca faced up to 85 years if convicted on all charges. Insurance companies filed civil suits totaling more than $800,000. Her house went into foreclosure. Her bank accounts were frozen. Everything she had gained from fraud was systematically taken away. Her trial began 8 months later. Prosecutors presented the Judge Judy footage showing Rebecca lying under oath. Expert witnesses reviewed her methods and concluded they were actively harmful. Jennifer testified that only legitimate therapy had helped her recover. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours, guilty on 45 of 47 counts at sentencing. The judge did not hold back. "Miss Thornton, you exploited people at their most vulnerable. You collected money through fraud. You caused potential psychological harm." The sentence: 12 years in federal prison, 5 years of supervised release, and full restitution of more than $400,000. Rebecca was 34. She would be 46 when released. Her entire adult life had been derailed by her decision to forge credentials and prey on vulnerable people. Rebecca Thornton's case became one of the most widely recognized examples of credential fraud in American history. Law schools used it to teach about fraud. Psychology programs highlighted it to reinforce ethics. The Judge Judy clip was shown in graduate programs nationwide. Jennifer Martinez made a full recovery and became an advocate for mental health consumer protection. She created a website that helps people verify therapist credentials and has helped hundreds. Avoid unlicensed practitioners. Rebecca's story stands as a powerful warning. She believed she could fake her way through life using impressive language and official-looking documents. For 3 years, she succeeded. But 1 hour in Judge Judy's courtroom destroyed everything. One simple question exposed her completely. In what year did Stanford University award you your PsyD? Such a simple question. Such a devastating answer. Rebecca's 2-second hesitation told Judge Judy everything. The incorrect year confirmed the lie. From that moment, her entire fabricated identity crumbled. That is the power of truth confronting deception. That is why professional credentials matter. That is why you must verify anyone providing mental health treatment. Rebecca learned the most painful lesson. If you fake credentials and exploit vulnerable people, eventually you will meet someone who does their homework and asks the right questions. Judge Judy did exactly that. And 3 years of fraud disintegrated in 90 seconds. Sometimes justice takes years. Sometimes it's as simple as one perfect question that brings a liar's world crashing down. If this renewed your faith that frauds face consequences, hit subscribe for more moments when entitled criminals face real accountability. Always verify credentials, ask questions, and never trust anyone who hesitates on basic facts about their training. Justice was served. Rebecca paid the price. And vulnerable patients are safer because one judge asked one perfect question at precisely the right moment.